That was a fish.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different here. I'm gonna be showing you guys how to tie braid to mono. You guys might be asking yourselves, why would you want to do such a thing? Well, there's many reasons of why you'd want to do such a thing, because for one, braid touches rock or any concrete or any type of structure underwater, we all know what happens. It just breaks. So when you add some mono to it, you're increasing your chances of catching that fish and having more abrasion resistance towards it, to all the structure that's under the water. So yeah, we're gonna be showing you guys how to tie a FG knot, which is just about every knot I use for all my big heavy catfish rods, and when I'm fishing in Florida I use the same knot as well. And another thing, it's also good to tie this mono to your braid is so the fish don't see it, because you know, bright green braid doesn't really look natural in the water, if you ask me. So when I have colors like that, I definitely like to use this monofilament just to give me that little more of an advantage when I'm fishing. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump into it, and I'm gonna show you guys how to go ahead and tie this mono to this braid with an FG knot. Alright, you guys, so here I have my braid, and I have it on a reel on the other side of the room right now. But what you want to do, you want to start off by just getting as comfortable as you can when you tie this knot, because it's a difficult knot at first, but once you learn it and you memorize it, it gets pretty easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our braid and we're going to wrap it around our pinky right here. We're just going to wrap it until we get the line tight from our reel. Okay, now that we have it a little bit tight on our reel, we want to keep that tension with this hand that I'm holding the braid on. Alright, so now that we got our braid, and we have our mono, I'm using 65-pound braid, and I believe this is 80-pound mono. Yeah, this is 80-pound mono. And I only really do the FG knot for my big catfish rods where I'm using thicker mono and thicker braid. And I stay away from swivels because you can't reel in a swivel through your eyes on your rod. So this FG knot makes it really smooth for casting. There's no interference. If you do it right, there's no interference in your eyes inside of your rod. Alright, so when you do this knot, we're going to take it and we're going to take this mono and we're going to be underneath this braid. Now when we start this knot, we're going to want to keep tension the whole time. So I'm going to take this mono and I'm going to have it underneath this braid, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to go underneath the braid once. Now remember, we did that once already on whatever side you start with. But once you get it, it should look something like that. And then the next step is to do the same thing but go the opposite direction that way with the mono. And we're going to do this anywhere between 16 to 20 times. It really depends on how many times you want to do it, but we're going to go ahead and do it 16 times. Alright, so I went ahead and did it 18 times instead, but the outcome should look something like that. And if you do it right, you should have all these little perfect little grooves in the braid, and the mono is just going straight through it. So what we're going to do in this step is very important to make sure you keep tension on this. We're going to pinch it and then we're going to let, while we're keeping tension on this braid, we're going to let all this braid go out of our pinky. Once we've done that, we're going to hold this braid off to the side, and we're going to kind of line up the mono with the braid. And this is where I like to do what they call a half hitch knot. And we're going to take this loose braid, come over top, if I can grab it. It's just a basic little knot. Let's just cinch down right onto that first link. Alright, what I like to do is I like to do it twice. So we're going to do that 2 times. Sometimes it's easier to keep your finger in between, but you want to keep the mono and the main braid together when you tie this knot. And then we're just going to slide it down to the next link. Alright, so what we're going to do now is you're going to take your main braid and this loose braid, and we're going to tighten it. Sometimes you'll hear a little pop. That's a good sign that it locked in. And then sometimes during this next part, some people like to use gloves. When I'm using the sticker stuff, it's not as bad, but this is where it really matters. This knot right here, it will not slip, and the only way you'll know it slips is right here. So we're going to wrap the braid, and then we're going to wrap the mono. And what we're going to do is essentially cinch it down as tight as we can. Now what happens here when you do this is the braid cinches into the mono and prevents the mono from slipping out. This is a no slip knot here, guys. I'm not going to kid to you, I'm not going to cap. This knot right here, I've used it for 100-pound tarpon, 50-pound catfish, big snook. Alright guys, so it doesn't stop there. And this is why we say we recommend to wear gloves when you tighten this knot, because as you can see, it dug into me pretty good, and it's 65-pound braid. I mean, it didn't get me too good, but. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing as the first step. We're going to tie 2 more half hitch knots. If I can. One. Now, I will say this knot is a little confusing at first, but once you learn it and you get it down packed, it's a knot you're going to want to use all the time, especially for big game fishing. Alright, so now, this is another important step that we're going to do here, is we are going to trim this braid, this extra braid, and this tag in mono. And this is what's going to help us guide this line through our eyes on our fishing rod. Okay, so I got some scissors. Sometimes you can use a lighter, but what you're going to want to do is cut this as close to the braid as you can, just like that. And then we're going to do the same thing for the braid. Like that. And sometimes what I like to do is get a little lighter, and what we'll do is we'll just burn the little excess right here of braid so the braid doesn't come untied, just like that. And this knot right here will not slip no matter how close you cut that mono to your braid. There's no tying in the mono at all, it's just straight braid to mono, and there's just braid that is cinched in to that initial knot. And yeah guys, this braid right here, or this knot right here, will not slip, it will not break. I promise you that. You can test it for yourself. And it will guide right through your eyes of your rod pretty nice if you do it right. Now I still have that little hump right there, and that's because I didn't quite do the half hitch notch right. So it sometimes get a little bulge, but it's not too bad. It doesn't really interfere with it too much. But yeah, and that can help you catch a lot of big catfish that are looking at your braid. Or if you like to use braid and get a lot of it on your reels, because mono doesn't, and that's how you solve the problem with abrasion resistance. You just put 10 to 20 feet of mono with your hook and weight, and you're good to go. So, hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Hope y'all see this shit.